All right, so this is my GearBin, and struggled with a fun name for it, but basically the GearBin references because it's got a lot of gears to make the bin work. But it's just a mini trash can, and the idea is that what I thought, what drove me in this was these things. We use in our kitchen biodegradable bags for food waste, and they're terribly expensive. And so because of that, wow, when I say they're terribly expensive, they have a real cost. They're 10 cents each or whatever. But it makes my wife more than me not want to throw them out every time we cook, because you don't fill them. And so you keep it in your kitchen a little longer than you probably should, and so then the food starts to smell, and so, or the food waste starts to smell, and so that's when you throw it away because you're there, but you still haven't filled it. And so my idea was to have use these dog waste bags, which are also biodegradable, a fraction of the cost, about 1/5 the cost, and a super handy size. So you open your bin, flex the arms forward, hook the bag on front and back, and then press the push back. So now your bag's in there. You're good to keep that on your counter. It's fairly airtight. I'm not going to say it's airtight, but it's probably bug tight would be a better way to put it. You're not going to get flies in and out of it. And then, you can press it hard to force the lid up if you're working, or you can manually lift the lid up, or you can also just do this and, have access to it. And so you fill it up when you're done filling it up, or in fact, you don't done filling up, you're just finished cooking or doing whatever you're doing at the barbecue or wherever. You press the push to release the bag, bring your bag out, huck, and I tie them shut so when they go into the garbage in the summer, they don't draw flies. And yeah, so that was what drove this, was the ability to do this. And I think it's got lots of applications, not just for the kitchen. Could be in your garage, could be at the barbecue, could be anywhere where you just want a small amount of garbage capacity with a inexpensive biodegradable bag that fits in nicely. And obviously, because you're printing it, you can do it in whatever color you want, and it's pretty compact. I don't know if you can tell from here, but it's pretty small and works really well. So with all that said, I'll show you how it goes together. And obviously, like always, welcome feedback, comments, thoughts, ideas. And yeah, there you have it. Let me show how it goes together. All right, so these are all the parts that make up the GearBin. Still not 100% sure about that name, but anyways, I'm sticking with it for now. I think there's about 30 components. Some of them are mirrored of each other, so there's a lot of very similar ones which you have to look out for as you build this thing. But it's pretty straightforward. The only thing is I need to emphasize the not need, but suitability of adding some lubricant. It definitely will run smoother with a little bit of lubricant in it. And again, I'm using a synthetic oil, and I have this little precision oiler, which is fantastic for getting just one little drop in wherever you want it. So with that said, let's put this thing together. I still haven't decided what's the best sequence of events to do this, but I'm going to go with what I've been doing lately, starting with the sides. There's two sides that are identical, but I typically build them one at a time. The easiest thing to do to just kind of get yourself started is lay in one of the levers. It just drops in. It's a good point here to put a drop of lubricant on the inside of this one, because this one's hard to lubricate after it's in. So I'm just going to drop in a drop on the inside of that. And so that's done. And then these gears, these two are mirrored of each other, so it's possible to reverse them. And so the most important thing is to just look at the teeth. This one's kind of like, if you think of them as an arrowhead pointing up, then this one also has to, on this side, be pointing up. and then they'll engage each other very easily. So you need to select your gear first, and then the matching sprocket, again the same thing. Make sure the teeth are facing the same way so they'll sit together. If you pick them and they don't go like want to mate, then you know you've got the wrong one. So go together. Now these two are easiest to go on together, and what I've been doing is just putting my hand on it and then forcing them down, and they'll just snap into place. Because at this point it doesn't matter their alignment, you can just snap those two in, and then again I'm going to drop just 1 drop of oil on each of those. So those are, over time that oil will work its way through. There's 2 components left, and these 2 components do matter their alignment. So I think the easiest one is the lifter. So when the lifter goes in, you need to make sure the lever's all the way in the up position. Maybe put your hand here to hold that. And then you can butt it down on the top of the lever there. This protrusion here indexes it as well. So you kind of like find its spot. And there's a couple of different ways to do it. You can just force it in. The gears are strong enough you can do that. Or just flex the side a little bit. So now those teeth engage. And you can see what happened to me. This popped out, which is easy to put in at any time. So you can just pick it up. Make sure it's all the way up when this is all the way down. So that's your home position. And now when you do this, you should see the full range of movement for that. And the last component to go on the sides is a little bit tricky. It's the coil spring-driven return mechanism, where this little tab, it's not really a tab, but this little protrusion on the inside of this gear sits, it decides how much pretension you have on the coil spring. And so far I found that if you aim that kind of right in line between these 2 mounts, it's pretty good. So align that about directly in line with those when this is up. Make sure this is up. Align it right kind of like that. Again, rather than force it, it's easier if you just flex the wall and then it'll drop in. But super important is that these 2 parts on the base here have to snap down under a ridge on the post, and that's going to stop that from coming out. So again, now you can see the full motion, and when it's home, this little mounting protrusion is directly between these 2 posts. Now this can go in. If you put I think if you put the start or the center into the post first, and then you need to grab needle nose pliers, or even big crude tweezers will do the job, I think. So just grab that and the loose end now and spin it around into that little mounting point. So there you go. And that just added about, I don't know, 20 degrees of tension on that coil spring, and so that's enough now to bring this back. Well, in fact, you can see even without this, if I push this up, it's always going to come back to its home position. And once this is in, and there's nothing holding it yet, I'm just going to hold it down so you can see. Okay, so that's built. And getting to my point about sequence of events, you can see there was no need to put this in at the very beginning. I could just put it in at the very end. No problem with that. And if you want to be liberal with the oil, which I tend to be on something like this, you can put a little bit on the ridge here that this lifter's sliding back and forth on. There's not much happening in here because it's a point, but why not? Hey, put a little dab in there. Okay, so that's the left side looking at it, built. And the exact same thing on the other side. I'm going to do it in the other sequence of events now. Put these 2 together. Then the lifter. Again, at this point, it doesn't matter as long where it is, because you can just turn it so it's down all the way. So this is a better sequence of events for building this. Then the mounting, a coil mount in between these 2 posts. Okay, make sure that sides snap down around the bottom of the post, and then the coil spring goes in this way. And again, my tweezers, snap the end of the coil spring into there. I have printed everything out of PLA, including the coil. A little bit of laziness because I was prototyping and I just wanted to do it fast, and I've just stuck with it. Obviously, this will be better if you do it in PETG, so you know, govern yourself accordingly. That is something you might want to do in PETG, even though I've done it in PLA. I'll see how it performs over time. I'm only a couple of weeks into actually using this, so I haven't had enough time to say, you know, how well it's going to stand up in the long run. And then the lever, now that we've decided we'll do that last, is easier to just put in because this is now naturally staying where it needs to be with the lifter down because of the coil spring. So the only thing left to do is make sure this goes in to the right spot. And because of the sizes, it flexes easily, so it goes in. So those two sides are done now. As you notice, I was building it. This wants to pop off, and it's going to be held together by this connecting rod. And the connecting rod just snaps into the base with the convex side towards the back of the bin. So you can do both of them if you're careful. This can now lay down because that's holding that one in. Put this one on top. So once those are on, the base, sorry, the shorter side is the base. The base will hold those in place and you're good. In theory, that connecting arm in the back is going to make these move at the same time together. So you can set that aside. And then the front and back, which create the push-push mechanism, I've been putting this in first. This will naturally index to where it needs to be because of the pretension on the compliant springs here. And then there's a gear goes on each side. There's a little bit of a thicker post. So you can see this piece here is narrower than this one. This is thicker, and there's an arrow there. So the thicker part goes up, and the arrowhead points to the arrowhead here for alignment. So basically when you see them aligned, you just flex the board and put it together. So just make sure those are aligned, and when it's in right, so the heads are aligned, the arrowheads are aligned, and the top end of the exposed gear section butts up against a protrusion on the wall. So that's there now, and you can see, you have to be careful because it's going to want to pop off the board at the moment. There's nothing holding it, but you can see those moving in unison. And a little bit of lubricant in there is a good idea as well. This little indexing arm, which is part of the push-push mechanism, you just push the, hopefully you can see this, push the pointed end down in there and then flex it down and snap it. And there you go. It should snap down and lay flush or very close to flush. I can feel a little raise in that, but that's fine. So now that's the face or the front of the box built. And again, these want to pop out until we snap on the back arm, which is the bag frame. If I hold the front here, then this one's fairly easy to put on. It's a press fit. It's a tight press fit, but it's a press fit. So you feel it snap on. And then same thing on the other side. And when they are on correctly, there's an arrowhead on the inside of both of these facing forward. So that's just there as a reminder, like a check that you got this the right way. I actually ended up making the holes for the back pivots, or the cutout here is smaller than the front one. And that will give you grief if you've got them backwards. So hopefully that'll help to identify. If it's difficult to go together, you might have it backwards. So that's done. And it's easiest to finish this now inside the build. So we can slide this down in. The edges of the front wall are indexed into the side walls. So that just slides down, or should, yep. So there we go. So that just slides down in there. And on the back one, oh, I should also show you, before I put the last one in, the front wall has some barbs on the inside here that have just snapped into place. So once that's down, in theory, you can't pull that out. Now, I made it possible to disassemble this because there's cutouts in the back where you can flex the barb inward to the inside and then pull out this wall. You can also achieve the same for now by just flexing the front wall away and pulling it out. And so here are the barbs that you can push in, and you hear them snap. But once the top's on and prevents this from flexing, then it's locked. It locks the whole thing together. So when you want to take the top off, you have to flex out the top ones first, and then you can flex out the bottom ones or flex the face of the bin out. So you can do that either way. And the same thing happens on the back, only there's 2 sets on the front, there's only 1 on the back. So there's 3 in total for the bottom half and 3 for the top. So again, this just slides in, indexes in. You need to flex the back wall out a little bit to get it past the mate to the interlock there. And so again, you can see that's snapped in, but I can get it out by flexing the back wall, or I could do it by flexing the barb from the inside. So that's done. And now we can snap in the back pivot to these bag arms. And it's a little easier now because you don't have to hold on to it. Just make sure you look at the alignment on that side and then feel it until you can get them to snap into place. This can be a little more sort of time consuming than you'd think it should be, because I find it kind of tricky to find the hole, but there we go. That's one. And then the second one, inevitably more challenging than the first. There we go. And once those snap in, that's now holding these arms. So this is just a free pivot. It's just spinning by itself. And when you press this, the index arm is going down into the push-push cycle there, locks it in place there, and then release. So you get a nice little push-push action. The arms can lift up the top. So you can see everything's functional at this point. So we can just drop on the top half, and this is going to lock in. So once we do it, we're kind of locked, and that now, because of those barbs I mentioned here and on the front here and here, that's locked together. So if you want to take this apart now, you have to wedge in somewhere so you create a little tension. Then use a pliers or tweezers and just pull forward the barb, which is actually easier to do from the underside. So I'm going to make this look way more complicated than it should be. But once you've got a little tension on it, this might be big. There you can see I can release the barb and create a gap there. And as long as you don't let that gap close up, you can do the same thing on the front. There's one. And while I'm applying tension, do the other one. And there you go. So now we can take it apart again. Just make sure you hold the innards as you go so that everything, oh, something's catching. Oh, I did the bottom on the dot. I should have done the top. There we go. So hopefully that's kind of clear enough that basically there's a set of barbs that are catching this. So once you get it on, it's going to lock in. And so you can pick it up anywhere and it's locked together. And so we're kind of built now. This could have gone on earlier, but it can go on now too. It literally slides on here, and there's a barb on the bottom of each of these that will lock in, and there's a hole here. So if you want to disassemble it, you just press the barb as you pull it off and it'll come out. So this should be actually easier to do on its back at this point. Okay, so you'll hear that snap and it'll lock in. So now we've got that. I do have a little bit of friction in this build, which I'm going to go fix, because this should spring back up a little bit more freely. And so you can fix that a couple of different ways. Look for where the friction is and lubricate it. Or you can also add a little bit more preload on the coil spring. It does have a fair distance available, so you can add more pretension by increasing that starting point, rotating the starting point further around before you attach the spring. Two things left to do. The lid, and these are the only two things that have support in them. This hinge that allows the lid to open and close is print in place. So this is how it comes off the build plate. This is actually a little bit fused on, so you need to just start the, you'll hear it crack as you kind of use a screwdriver or anything to flex it, and do a little bit on both sides so you get it started. And then once you get it going, like any fused part, you just kind of work it a little bit until you get enough of it that you can bring it up, and there you go, there it's free. I've been on my builds putting in a little bit of lubricant in there, but I don't know if you need it because it's kind of nice that this isn't too floppy. Oh, I mentioned print support. There's a piece of print support here, and it's this bar right there. So after you unstick that, make sure you pull that out. It could either be sitting in the track here or where I just removed it from. And it's a good time to explain why that's there. I put this frame on the inside of the lid with the idea that I might make a TPU gasket that will seal this a little better. But so far, I actually like the way it's sealing. It's pretty good. So I haven't done it yet, but there's room for that. And if anybody wants that for whatever they're using this for, and it's not posted, send me a message and I'll create that. The reason I've kind of stalled on it is because I think there'll be a little bit of issue with the with that TPU gasket possibly making the lid want to stick. So there might be some playing around with it. So it'll be another little project. But for now, I've left the frame there, so it could be added, and it also strengthens the lid. So make sure you remove the print support. This is free, and then this will go in better if you bring these arms forward, because there's some tabs here that have to flex out for this to lock in, and it's going to self-attach. So as you go in, just make sure you're centered, approximately centered. Push it down, and it's just locked itself in. And then there's your lid, and when you press this, it should go up, and it should. This might be why the friction that I was talking about isn't the problem, because the way the lid's adding just a little bit more return force. So you can see it's coming back up all the way now. So it might be good, but just let me know if you're doing this and you find that it's just not working. Just send me a message and we'll figure it out. And so you can use this by either pressing the arm down. If you press it really aggressively, you can snap the lid up, and then you just manually put down. But you can also just lift the lid up if you want. If you want to have this thing open because you're peeling veggies or whatever and you're throwing stuff in, then keep it open. Otherwise, you can just do the two-handed operation. I just realized I forgot to show something important. That is, I showed you how to take the cabinet or the housing off, but I didn't show you how to take the lid off. And it's pretty simple. Flex the arms forward, and then, as I mentioned when I was installing it, there's a tab there's two tabs, one on each side, holding onto the lid. So just flex that tab forward from the inside. You'll see it once you're in front of it, and then keep pulling up until they release, and there it comes out. And to reassemble it again, you just push it in, and it'll lock back into place. But if you want to disassemble this thing, you need to pop that out. Okay. I'll show you the bag loading, but before I do that, actually I'm going to show you that now. So in case anybody's wondering, I'm using these biodegradable bags from Costco. They're super cheap, super nice bag too. Set your push forward, drop your bag down in between the two arms, hook it on the back first. It's a little tight, but just hook it around the back and the front, and then now your bag's in. It's not like so clamped that it's going to stay regardless of what you do, but it's pretty good, and it fills right out, so you're good. You fill that with whatever trash you have, and then pull the arms forward, unhook it, and pull out your trash and reload it. I also made a bucket for it, and this is the last part I want to show you for this, and it's the other one that has some built-in support. There's two rectangular supports in here that should just break out fairly easily. That creates your handles for getting this in and out if you want it. But this is basically a liner bucket. So you can use this whole thing without a bag and just use the bucket, in which case you don't need the push-push mechanism. It's not doing anything for you, but it makes a nice little garbage bin. But I also wanted it because if you're using, well, actually for two reasons. One, you put in a bag in here and get this in. I can't talk and do things at the same time. So your bag's in. If you get liquids or anything that's spilling in there and the bag breaks, it's all contained because of the bucket. So the bucket's kind of helping to make sure everything's contained. But the other thing is if you fill this bag too much and kind of jam it full, the bag's going to come up the walls and catch on things because there is some structures on the inside. But because the bucket's now the smallest shape in there, as you pull out the jam-packed bag, it will just ride up the walls and it'll come out easily. So I think the bucket's important. I recommend putting it in, but it's not absolutely essential, depending on what you're doing with this thing. It's also the reason I kept the bottom open. If I wasn't, before I had the bucket added, I didn't close. I had the bottom closed because I didn't want stuff falling out. But by having the bucket in there, you know that you're contained whatever's in there, and it makes this a faster print and also maybe easier to work on and clean and everything else. So yeah, so there you have it. I think that's pretty much it built. Let me know if you have any trouble or any issues with it or any ideas for changes or additions or anything. Let me know.